we pause for a second or two. This is episode 133, Pausing with Restless Peers. We are in late summer, early autumn, and as in any shift, any great shift, we get more restless. Now, when some things are shifting, things will also change. And in the face of change, we get restless because we do not know what will be, and we care about what will be. When we are restless, we have a lot of energy in us, and this energy is going here, it's going there. It's accomplishing something, and then moves on to the next thing, a third thing, and so on. When we are restless, we move around like Pac-Man, like a pinball, from this to that. And we are not pausing. When we are restless, we are not pausing. Although sometimes we feel that we ourselves pause, but our peers do not. And today's episode, Pausing with Restless Peers, is about this. It's about when we pause and what happens when we pause together with our peers not pausing, when they are restless. So today we will speak about what happens when someone pausing meets with someone not pausing. What are the different reactions, some different dynamics between the two? And the pausing one being us. So, when we pause, we may pause in any given situation. We may pause in a sleep situation. We may pause in an acute situation, in a long-term situation, in a confused situation, or in a worn-out situation. These are our 5 different situations. And when we are pausing with a restless peer, then what happens between us and our peer depends on what kind of situation emotionally our peer is in, as well as our situation. So the dynamics is decided by when one part is pausing. In this instance, it's us. When one part is pausing, then the kind of situation it is being perceived as on our part and on our peer's part. What combination of situations it is decides what dynamics becomes. So in one and the same situation, from a pausing standpoint, it is like two emotional situations. So for us, for example, we might perceive the situation to be a worn out situation. But the other part, our peer, might perceive the situation as an acute situation. And then we have the meeting between two kinds of emotional situations. It's a worn out situation from us and an acute situation from the other one. And it is all these different combinations that decide the outcome. What happens when we pause with a restless peer. So the number of possible combinations, if my math is with me right now, should be 5 times 5. So it should be 25 different combinations, possible combinations. So we will just touch upon a few of these, just to be started off on the mindset. So we may start with us being in a sleep situation, which is about predictability, which is about safety, about the natural rhythm to our life. So let's say that we are in this predictable emotional situation and we are pausing. And let's say that the other person is in a worn out situation. They are feeling extremely tired. They are feeling burned out and have close to a depressed feeling. So when we pause and we come from a predictable sleep situation and the other person comes from this depressed, worn out situation, then likely our restless peer will get depressed, get more depressed. The predictability we offer in our pause will make the restless, worn out peer get in touch with their tiredness, their depression, their being put down by something. If we take another example, let's say that we feel confused. We ourselves feel confused. So for us, it's a confused situation. Then let's say that our peer, our restless peer, is in a long-term situation. Our peer is restlessly thinking about their future, searching for answers about their future. Then if we pause from a confused standpoint, then our forward-looking restless peer will be quite put off by us. They will not want to engage with us at all, because their long-term planning does not need our confusion. And our pausing will just increase our confusion, how confused we feel to the other person. So pausing has this this quality of making things happen. So when we pause, the dynamics between our different emotional situations become more clear. So if I am restless and you are restless, then it doesn't really matter that much what kind of emotional situation we are in, because we are not really engaging one another. But when one of us is pausing, then our meeting becomes more engaging. And then the dynamics between our different emotional situations become more important, more significant. So pausing is like this double-edged sword. We need to make a craft out of it and know when to apply it. We are not supposed to pause all the time. And we are not supposed to pause without discernment. So we pause at the right moment. And a lot about it is intuitive. Seldom when we meet a person do we think as explicitly as we have done today. Seldom do we think, oh, today or right now I am feeling worn out and the other person is feeling confused. Seldom do we think like that. We just feel our way as we go along. So rather than thinking which of all these 25 different combinations we are in, it gets much too intellectual. Instead of doing that, what we do is we simply recognize that the other person is restless, our peer is restless. And we know that we are able to pause if we want to, if it feels right to do so. And then we just get a like a taste of the dynamics between us. and we can micropause, do a tiny pause to just feel, does it feel right? Does it feel constructive to pause right now? Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. Sometimes a pause would do good, and at other times a pause would just be destructive. So what will happen is we pause, and our peer will maybe want to move away, maybe want to confront us. Who are you pausing when I'm feeling restless? Why are you doing this? Sometimes our peer gets intrigued, interested. There is something here. Maybe they feel that pausing might not be such a bad idea after all. Could be that our restless peer gets very confused by us pausing. Sometimes our peer just wants to block us with something, picking up their smartphone or turning away or something like that. And sometimes when we pause with a restless peer, they simply give up the ghost and their shoulders go down, and it was exactly what they needed. Could be any one of those reactions. So pausing is not one thing. It doesn't do one thing. Pausing is... when we pause, we enable contact. That's what pausing is. When we pause for a second or two, we enable contact between whatever we are in and whatever our peer is in. And that contact, that very physical, emotional contact, physical in a platonic sense, that contact can lead to any number of things. And pausing is a craft. We will come across thousands and thousands of different combinations and reactions to pausing. Sometimes it is appreciated, it feels constructive. Sometimes it is frowned upon or shunned. It depends. And the more a person pauses, the more interesting it gets. And the more a person pauses, the more nuances there will be. And the more control we will have in deciding a bit more where to go together with our peer. What is most important to keep in mind here is that pausing is neither good or bad in itself. Pausing is rather like an activity that we can choose to embark on. Sometimes pausing is right, and at other times pausing is wrong, depending on what our goal is. So it must not be used carelessly. It must be used as a craft. We want to strive for pausing with a steady hand. And whatever reason or reasons that our peer is restless, there are reasons for why they are restless. So when we pause and they meet with us pausing, the reasons for their restlessness will feel both acknowledged and threatened at the same time. It will feel both like a potential but also like a risk from our peers' standpoint. So regardless of what restless peer we are meeting with, there will always be this ambivalent energy in the meeting. This contact, this pausing contact, will always have this ambivalent feeling to it. And pausing is a lot about familiarizing ourselves with ambivalences. And that restlessness is a lot of energy, and the energy has to go somewhere. So if our pausing is not prepared to deal with a great amount of energy, regardless if it comes from us or our peer, if we are not prepared to deal with a great amount of energy, then our pausing will fail. So we pause, yes, but we also engage with a large amount of energy. So hence the steady hand. Decisive. Open but decisive. That's it for today. Thank you.